Hello, everyone. Hello. Good night to another episode of Roll for Diplomacy. My name is André Tavares. I'm the host and producer of the show, and this is a show where we talk about role playing games. Tonight, I'm very honorable because at the other side of the table, this side, it's Vincent and Meguey Baker. Welcome. So, as you can see, sometimes we'll be having some lag issues because we are really far away of each other. Hopefully, one day the dream comes true and we'll have a production set and we can invite Vincent and Maggie to have dinner with us to talk about RPG design games. Hopefully, one day.
We'll be
Oh,
there.
awesome, that's awesome. It's recorded, guys. It's recorded. So, before we start our conversation, which we have a lot of questions from you community. Thank you so much for um, flooding our email, our social media stuff with questions tonight. But before we started, let's talk about our sponsor online shop, which is Voodoo Place. Is a Portuguese online shop where you can get your role-playing game. And I actually have a story about how I get Apocalypse World. Here, this one, the soft cover one, because the hard cover was a gift. So I went to Voodoo Place to buy Apocalypse World. They did not have it, but they managed to reach other shops and told me and give me the solution that fitted best for me. So if they don't have the game, they help you get you the game you want. And that's crazy because no one does that. So if you want to support Voodoo Place, we are very welcome. We also have a Patreon page. If you can go there, it's in Portuguese because we are Portuguese content creators. But yeah, if you like the content we do somehow, you can help us there. And more importantly, at this year, 2019, we are hosting game jam over at Ichio, which is RP Genesis, and it was all in Portuguese, the text and the rules, and then we noticed that we wrote in the banner international participants welcome, and said, oh heck, we need to write English rules, so we wrote them, and you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
At this moment, more than 50 people are signed up, which makes this RPG Genesis the biggest one, and we are very proud. Let's make games together. And it's everything I want to talk about before our conversation. We have here both Vincent and Maggie, and probably the best person, the best couple to ask the very first question, which is, who are Vincent and Meguey Baker, and what do they do?
Games since 2001, 2002, something like that. In 2001. For Satan, making and publishing independent role-playing games. Almost 20 years now, almost 20 years.
20 years of experience.
40 between us.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's beautiful. So, what are you currently up to? Was your Sunday well? Is it going well for you?
Today?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did 32 pages of layout yesterday. And my brain was kind of foggy. But today's been lovely. A breeze has just picked up, and so the window is open and the trees are moving, and we're very
Awesome. That's beautiful. So, you usually say this expression, RPG is a conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why is RPG a conversation, where that conclusion came from, and how have you both reached it? What was the process? for it. Why is it a conversation?
Playing is a conversation. So in Apocalypse World, as is, hey, you know how role-playing is a conversation. Meant to be a definition. It's not meant to be sort of a fundamental thing. It's just, this is how it for Apocalypse World's purposes, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so in many role-playing games, maybe most, like whatever, but in many role-playing games, a conversation is an important part of play, whether role-playing is a conversation or not. The conversation that we're having about our characters, you know, this my guy goes over here and does this, and you say, oh, he sees a sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
Like this literal conversation where the two of us are talking or the three of us are talking is part of many role-playing games. And so Apocalypse World addresses itself to that part of many role-playing games. And it says, you know, since we're having a conversation about these characters, let's try making rules about how that conversation works and see what happens. Now, like in 2008, I was writing to see what happened, right? But since then, we've seen kind of what happens. Like, it's no longer an experiment to see how
it goes.
How a game's rules can address themselves to the conversation directly.
I think part of it is also, like you alluded to, that when we were coming up, like when I was playing D&D when I was a kid, or when we were playing Cyberpunk or Shadowrun or something when we were in our teens and early 20s, the conversation wasn't really part, like we were all talking at the table, but the focus is on combat and mechanics,
Right.
and how we, like, what's the procedure to do this thing. So changing that structure to, like, okay, we are having a conversation. How does this go? What do I want from you in this situation? How am I assessing this situation? What's the thrust of what we're doing here, in ways that are more than, can I hit you until you're out of hit points?
And especially who gets to ask questions,
Right.
and who gets to answer questions.
Yeah, who is responsible for the details of the conversation? Like, is it one person who has all the world building, all the bad guys, all the everything? Or is that something that's shared out between us in a conversational, what are you interested? I don't know, what are you interested kind of way?
Sure.
But
Damn it.
No, ask away.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, this RPG is a conversation, and the shared agencies, like who builds what and who is asking what. Here in Portugal, we tend to have a very open. Well, it really depends on the table, but yeah. Regarding the RPG as a conversation, do you think it helps actually how to have a conversation outside of the game?
Yes.
Why so?
When you look at the way that we converse with each other, when we look at how we communicate, you know, there's a lot of different ways that we communicate, and giving people a chance to think critically about those ways. Think, okay, what am I doing here? Why am I doing it? What am I hoping to convey? What am I hoping to achieve? Even to the process of, you know, analyzing in yourself, as if this was a role-playing game, would I want to be using by force or seduce and manipulate? What am I doing here? Why are we talking? For one. Then for other, there's like an incredibly just straight out practical thing of learning conversational skills. Take turns talking, highlight, you know, shine the light on the other person. What do they have to say that is going to be awesome? You know, how do you build each other up instead of tear each other down? How do you say yes and to the other? Like all that sort of stuff that is a huge part of role-playing design.
The rhythms of some of the moves in Apocalypse World are gossip or jokes or you'll never believe what happened to me. And so when I was designing those moves, and when we were creating those moves, fleshing them out, they really are intentionally conversational in that way. They really, and I think we see it. I mean, it's really hard to isolate this kind of thing, but I think we see it in our kids and in their friends, our teenage friends, who are sort of comfortable conversing. And I think maybe it's partly like, kids are going to be comfortable conversing.
Or not.
But I think some of them have gotten good practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like if the games that you're playing gives you the ability to practice communication skills, even if it's very like sneaky about it, even if it's completely sideways, like 1001 Nights, there's like, that's packed with communication stuff, and on purpose to push people toward different types of conversation in games. Like, use more senses than what you see. Talk about the food, talk about the risks you're taking. What happens when you play my character playing a character, and how much distance do you create, and how does that change how you're interacting with other people? What does that give you in terms of real world skills? Okay, if I go into this situation, how could that maybe go? And I do think that role-playing games have given our kids at least an appreciation for like making a good story, thinking an idea through, of like, okay, what do I really want to say here? And to think that through, and how do I craft that sentence for effect? What effect am I going for? And I watch that now, especially with the older two, who are really young adults now, 19 and 22. And they're really at the point where I'm watching them practice these skills where they say a thing and then it doesn't quite hit how they want. So they use skills that they've learned through role playing of, do-overs. Hold on, that's not what I meant. They have no fear in that. They have no fear of saying, oh, hold up, let's just rewrite that a bit, because I'm not being clear here. And that's phenomenally cool.
That's gold. Really. I do feel that it helped me, mainly your games. As I wrote on Twitter, it helps me to have a conversation. It really helped me to structure, mainly the questions. I do questions now that I would never before playing this type of games. So this kind of leads to maybe it was some part of it already answered. Why do you design games?
Oh, do you want to answer first? Do you want me to?
Every once in a while, probably 3, 4, 5, 6, 20, 40 times a year, I say, that's it, I'm done. No more games. I'm never designing another game.
No way.
I wash my hands.
All the time. This happens all the time.
And Meg says, oh yeah, try.
And then the next day, or like an hour later,
20 minutes later,
he's like, oh, I have this idea for a game. Yep.
I've never, since I was a child, I designed games. It's always been part of
me too.
Part of my thinking. Do you know Anna Anthropy? She's really into independent video games. She's a big supporter of Twine. She's a teacher. She wrote a book called Rise of the Video Game Zinesters. And she says that the way, in that book, she says that the way you write a poem to communicate and understand a feeling, right? Or the way you draw to communicate or understand how something looks. You design a game to communicate or understand how a system works, how a dynamic system works. So, if you're struggling to understand the admissions process at a college, you can design a game to help you examine that, help you communicate it, help you see it. And I think that that's what we do. It's like sketching, or it's like writing. It's a way that we look at systems in the world, dynamics in the world, pressures and tensions in the world, to try to understand them. That's what I do.
I have a yes, and there's, I mean, I have absolute examples of that, because another piece is when you're not necessarily just when you're trying to understand the admissions process, you design a game to do that. But when you look at a system that's not working how you intended for some way, you know, if you have pedestrians and cars and a trolley and horses and carts and there's terrible traffic snags, look at the different systems you've put in place and why this is causing a problem. You know, that's a real example. It's really cool. There's other things. But for me, a big reason in why I design games is really straight up to help people tell stories. I like storytelling is a way we make sense of our lives. Everything from what happened this morning to huge big picture questions of mortality and morality, and how we convey our own history to our children, how we share our culture with other people, how we honor our ancestors. It's like storytelling is huge, and it's intrinsic to the human. You know, you have a child who can talk, they are going to make up stories. So part of my point of game design is to look for the places, look for the types of stories, the kinds of stories that I know exist that are not being given a place in games for people to create or have a framework to tell the stories that they want to tell. And frankly, there were a lot more places 15 years ago, because people are putting forth amazing stuff all the time, and it's so exciting. I really love it, but there's also this, it's wonderful, but there's so many more places. Like if you want to tell a romance story, originally it's like, okay, you've got Emily Cairboss's work and that was it. And now there's probably 50 games that you could pull down right away to say, oh, that and that and that and that and that and that, which is really cool. Like, what's the one that just came out? Starcrossed. Yeah, that's like the most recent one, and I can think of, and I know it's not the most recent one. You know,
yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, new platforms are kind of loading with new stuff every time, and it's sad because somehow we can't read and play everything.
Yes.
Yeah, we have like in the chat. I think this is João Talassa 72, which has already more games than he can read and play from the time he has, and it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
But okay. So it's curious because you have done some other designers or wannabe designers, as I like to call myself. Some people tend to say the expression, I design games to make people have fun. What's your take on that?
I think that it is good to design a fun game if you want to. And it's also hard to design a fun game, but it's not impossible. Like, that's something you can do if you want to. And it's also important to design games that aren't fun and are no fun at all. My very favorite games
are no fun.
On Earth are no
fun.
Famously, Diplomacy. You know the game Diplomacy? Diplomacy.
No, I should.
It's an amazing game. It's an amazing game. It will make you hate your friends. It gives you a stomachache. You have to get 9 people together. It's a World War I simulator.
Okay.
A classic from the 70s. You have to get 9 people together
for a day, like
for
a whole day.
A whole day. It takes 12 hours to play. It will give you a terrible stomachache, and you will hate your friends at the end, and you'll never forgive them. Like, I mean, it will ruin your friendships. This game is not fun, but it's one of the best games I've ever played. It's a brilliant game, amazing game.
Oh, okay. I know. We call it. I think it's Risk. Is that
It-
Risk?
well,
No,
Risk-
it's not
Risk-
Risk.
Risk is
a
like
different game.
a soft, gentle, friendly puppy that loves you compared to diplomacy.
Okay,
Diplomacy is serious business. I wish I could remember who made Diplomacy.
Oh, I can look it up.
Okay.
So like some of our games are really fun, like really, really fun to me. And some of them are worth playing, even though they're not that much fun.
Diplomacy, 1954 by Alan B. Kalhammer.
But what was the publishing company? Is it Games
Oh, the publishing
Workshop?
company. I don't know. I'll find
I
out.
don't know.
No
From the
problem.
Yeah, 50s. So it's post World War II.
Fantastic game.
And it's it'll ruin your world.
So don't play Diplomacy. Is that the take?
That's the takeaway. You have to find friends that you don't care if you never speak to them again.
Okay. And somehow there's fun in Diplomacy. Beautiful.
Avalon Hill published it.
Okay, beautiful. So, but when you are designing, do you think like, okay, I'm going to design this rule and that option to make people have fun, or how does that work?
Yes.
See, I'm shaking my head no, and you're shaking your head yes. That's hilarious.
beautiful.
Okay, you say, go ahead. I want to hear your answer.
All right.
I'm designing to make them fun because I know you.
Oh, well, no, like I'm not designing something. I'm designing to make people trapped and unhappy. But like I had this argument on Twitter recently that you can design for fun is my real position if you want to.
Yeah.
And as thinking of something that's fun and designing a game that gives you that, and like getting 3 in a row at last. This is what I said on Twitter.
Yeah.
Getting 3 in a row is fun. So if you design a game where you get 3 in a row, that's fun. Like, why wouldn't it be? Cutting open a wizard. This is one of my examples. Cutting open a wizard to see what's inside. A weird
really
light, worms, like birds, normal stuff.
The one
Like, that's fun, right? Like, isn't that fun?
the one I cut open was full of snails and fish bones.
Nice.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I'll bet it was fun.
It was so fun.
Yeah. So yeah, no.
So the thing is, the issue there that I want to just put a little pin in is that I've watched you design for a lot of years, and you definitely don't necessarily go, okay, what's fun for people? But the importance is you're also not designing to hurt people.
Not always. I designed a game. Check this game out. I designed a game. It's rock, paper, scissors.
Mm-hmm.
If you win with rock, you get to punch the other person in the arm as hard as you want. If you win with scissors, the other person has to give you $1. And if you win with paper, the game ends. So if you want to punch somebody, they can end the game. But if they want to end the game, you can take their money. Anyway, this game is not supposed to be fun. This game is an illustration of. I hope nobody plays that game. It's a terrible game. Why would you play that game? But the game's an illustration of how qualitative additions can distort the math of a game.
Yeah,
right.
The mechanics of rock, paper, scissors can mean a whole bunch of different things depending on what you lay over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a game, the dollar auction. Do you know this game?
This is
so
classic.
it's a fantastic game. So I say, okay, I have a dollar bill. I'm going to auction this dollar bill. Here are the rules. Whoever bids the highest gets the dollar bill. Whoever bids the second highest has to pay anyway and gets nothing. Right?
Okay.
So I say, who will pay a nickel for this dollar?
Everybody raises their hands.
Right. And then I say, okay, who'll bid 10 cents? And then you get to 95 cents. And the person who's paying 90 cents then is going to be out 90 cents for no. And they say, yeah, I'll pay $1 for the dollar. Dollars, when you do a dollar auction, they routinely go for $2.50, $3 because that second person is trying to minimize their loss, right? Minimize what they've given up. And it's a terrible trap. Like Luke Crane used to play dollar auction at conventions as an illustration, right? His topic was game design is mind control, and he would say, we're going to play this game. And he would bring the loser up, right? The person who bid second. Actually, both of them. Like here you have one person who's paid $3 for a dollar, and another person who's paying $2.95 for nothing. And he says, how did you feel about this? And they say, this was a trap. This is miserable. I felt completely stuck. Mm-hmm. And it's a brilliant game. It was created by an economist to illustrate how unreliable rational decision making is. And a brilliant game that is terrible to play. Nobody should play that game. Yeah. The only way to...
I mean, we always play, we play that a lot, but we just don't realize we're playing it because we live in the late stage. Anyway, never mind. Edit that bit out.
We have lost you. We can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Oh, I can hear you. Can you hear you?
Can you text him?
Oh, you can't hear me?
His expression is great.
Yeah.
I can hear you. But can... Okay, I'm going to relog. We are having some technical issue because we are really far away.
Oh, okay.
Hi. Can you see me and hear me? They can hear me.
Are we back again?
Yes, I think we are back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
How far back do we need to go? What did you hear last?
We hear everything.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was like you did not hear me. I was not talking. And I kind of noticed the Discord was giving some clues. But yeah, this probably will happen like
That's
from
fine.
Minutes to minutes.
So back through the dollar auction. Then
we heard everything. It sounds a terrible but beautiful game at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So in terms of like a game that's fun. In a game, there's a couple different ways that happen. Occasionally, if magic and the stars are in the right alignment and I've slept really well, whatever, grab me by the throat and say, now you sit and write. And terrible, and that's where first game in Playing Nature's Year, two of the other games in Playing Nature's Year worked like that. There's a couple games that I have literally not allowed me to go to sleep. It's like you must. It happens to Vincent too. The harder part is work of I'm trying to figure out express or this place, this particular thing. I have a white whale game that I really want to make about innings of archaeology and scientific inquiry and feminism, where you have women becoming scientists for the first time, like a broader way of like I have other options after the Civil War, after the American Civil War. I've been poking at that game for 8 years, maybe. It won't resolve yet. Shut up.
It will.
15 off. Yeah, so that's not with that. I'm not setting out to like what will be fun, and it's certainly not easy. It's how will these pieces move in an interesting way, and that's important because I'm also a textile artist, and I do a lot of I'm doing quilting and things. So a lot of that is about looking at arrangements of pattern pieces. What's the primary pattern? What's the secondary pattern? What's the quilting that I put on top of that does a different layer? So there's a lot of looking at the layers of moving parts and getting them to align with my vision of the cohesive whole. And then hopefully people enjoy it. And I think that's the very important distinction between have fun and enjoy. Because you can enjoy something that is devastating, that you leave, or even during, you're feeling raw and exposed, and afterward you have to process what happened. And I would not say that's fun, but is it cathartic? Or did you enjoy so fully inhabiting that experience? That's very different than having fun to me.
The word I like is worthwhile. Was it worthwhile?
Was it worthwhile?
And like, I think it's good for games to be fun, and I think it's good for games to be worthwhile and not fun.
Yeah.
That's
I think that's up to the designer to shoot for.
Yeah.
That is a great term, worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Worthwhile.
Yeah. So, apart from living, raising a family, how do you design games together? Are there like any story you could share? Because I know there is some giggling stories about. I've read some.
You've read some?
Yeah, I've read some.
No, I don't know any stories.
Am I going to tell this Kill Puppies for Satan story again? Because that's
not a time we designed together. So,
but it's a really good story.
Usually what happens is one of us has the idea for the game, the vision for the game, and sits down and puts it into some sort of a presentable form, right? And then brings it to the other. And
I mean, in some sort of, sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's like one of the of us has like a Google Doc of how about this, or come look at this mechanic. Roll these dice with me. I want to see if this works. And that does happen a lot.
Yeah.
But there are also times when it's just purely, okay, I have this idea for a game, and it's just like the raw idea dump.
Yeah.
And sometimes the other person will be like, that sounds cool. Go work on that.
Right.
You go work on that.
Whether it sounds cool or not. You say, no, I see. Yeah.
That's yours.
Go, do it. I'm with you.
Sometimes it's like, oh, neat. Here's where I think this piece is. What do you like? Because we can see the spaces in each other's work.
Yep.
After 30 years. And so if one of us comes to the other and says, here's this thing I'm thinking of, odds are really good that the other one is going to say, okay, and here's a different light, a lens, a different facet that can illuminate the design and go, oh, great, awesome. And then we're working together. Occasionally there are designs that we like. Occasionally there's designs where just one of us carries the full game. But I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, so right now the Wizard Grimoire games only have my name on them.
Yeah.
And but when they come to full publication, they'll have both of our names on them. I think right now you're not invested in them yet.
Yeah, I mean, we've done.
I'm gonna have to.
Yeah, I love them. I like killing wizards.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Killing wizards.
It's fun.
There's a Paul Sega just quoted Questlove, and I wish I knew who Questlove is. Oh no!
How do you
I really
is?
wish I knew who Questlove is. Now I really wish.
Okay, what did he say?
Questlove said that collaborating with someone is an important next step to take in your career.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
That's okay.
Don't tweet that I don't know who Questlove is.
I'm not okay.
Okay.
Questlove is a musician and has worked with a ton of and
yeah. So this is about collaboration.
Okay, good.
Okay, so Questlove says that the process of collaborating is the process of creating something that both of you. Oh, we lost him again.
That's okay.
That both of you are eager to put your name on, and I think that process elevates both of our work, right? Like the Wizard's Grimoire is not as good yet as it will be when you're ready to put your name on it too.
Sure. Let's check and make sure that it's getting bigger.
Can you hear me? I can hear you. Oh, I can't. Oh, okay. They can't hear me. I can hear you. And see. I'll relog.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'll relog. Okay. Discord is not helping us tonight.
guiding.
Hi
Did we do
again.
Oh, again. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Fortunately, we
Did
hear
you-
you and see you every time, so there's no problem.
we just don't want to. We don't want to risk having. We don't want to risk it. So I'd rather, if it's okay,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
should
yeah.
stop and check. Okay, good.
Sure, no
So
problem.
you had just been talking about Questlove.
Oh yeah, so I think the Wizard's Grimoire is good now, but when you're ready to put your name on it too, that will be better than it is now,
Mhm.
or else as good as it is now if it's amazing right now. But like I'm looking forward to that process where I say, okay, Meg, here's what I've done. I've been comfortable putting this out with my name on it. What do you need in it
Right.
to be comfortable putting your name on it, to be eager to put your name on it as well?
Right. Yeah.
And then working together to
Yeah.
bring it to that point. And I think that's Questlove says that's an important step in everybody's career, a creator's career,
That's beautiful.
to develop,
Yeah. I mean, figuring
to
out
elevate your work.
of give and take, and important give and take in collaboration, because you have to be skill set, you have to know your own capacity in terms of, I mean, part of with the Wizard's Grimoire books, I've had a very difficult spring in terms of a couple major losses, injury that I'm dealing with, and I've had one at the museum, is that I just don't have the space right now yet. This is awesome. Now let's go. To collaborate effectively, it would not be kind right now, and it wouldn't be good for the work right now for me to be saying, okay, let me get, because I'd be saying, oh, I don't want to be in a place where I'm saying, oh, hold on, don't do that bit yet. Work.
Right.
That people ask often with your partner, and how does that work? Because a lot of people don't. Things that we have for each other is respect for each other as creative, separate from each other. It's not just in our game work, but in all of the other creative endeavors that we might do. Whether it's, okay, I'm going to go do quilting stuff, and I'm going to be at these conferences, and there's going to be walls full of fabric in our house and things like that. Or, cooking, where you're like, I'm just going to buy all the cookbooks. There's going to be all these ingredients. There's just the different ways that we express ourselves creatively. And that's like the tip of the iceberg, really.
Yeah.
But it gives us a base to come from, when one or the other of us, because here's the thing that happens when we are deep in the creative space, things can get very technical and very clipped. I'm looking for this piece of information from you right now because I'm working on this specific bit. I don't have time for any other stuff than your answer to this question right now. Answer it. Thank you. I'm back to this. Or when there's something where we are not seeing clearly, and we really have to wrestle together to get to where we have a clear vision to go forward.
Well, so the only expression of the idea, the vision for a game, is the game.
Yeah.
There's no partial expression. And so it's very difficult when a game isn't finished yet to communicate with each other what the game is. I'm trying to somehow, like, I have
magically
this feeling
beam
in my
it into
head,
your head.
and I'm trying to get Meg's feedback.
And I'm like, I don't know what your vision is.
That I can't share, that I don't. And so that can be very frustrating.
Yeah. And one of the big things is to recognize when that's the mindset, and not to get offended or upset or feel neglected or any of things. It's like, oh, you're doing the thing. Cool. I'll go pick up the kids or, just go read a book or do whatever.
Try to give you that precise piece of information and not take it personally.
Yeah. And it means that we've been together. It'll be 30 years this September that we'll have been together. And so that gives us bedrock from which to operate for the rest of our lives. That we have, we're not bound up in being each other's everything, and we're not bound up on always operating at the same space, because we know that we're going to be in different headspaces sometimes. Like, okay, now I just want to write games. Oh, you're in crunch mode with something else and you can't. Okay, cool. I'll go over here and write games. Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Like, we have Watcher 81 writing on the chat.
We can't hear you again.
Oh, you can't hear me? Damn it. Let's leave and join the call. Now you can hear me, hopefully. Can you hear me? Oh.
No, I said that.
Now it's all good, right?
Yeah.
All good.
All good. Yeah, we hear everything. And I was just saying that we have Watcher 81 writing on the chat. But you're married to me. How can you not know what I'm thinking? I'm sure it's the frustration, right? But we understood that it is required a base and a structure and space. And we even have people saying that people starting a family should be listening to this conversation, and hopefully they will.
Okay, so I have some things to say to that.
Go ahead. And congratulations, 30 years together.
Thank you.
It was pretty cool.
It's very beautiful.
Skill. You can learn it, and it's not easy. After 30 years, there's still times where like, I didn't know that. A thing that happens all the time. Assume that they know the person that they are married to, or that they assume that they know their child. Actually have in their head is an outdated picture. I still had that Vincent was going to be like the person he was when he was 18, setting us both up for a lot of crap to relationships as though they are fresh every day to each other. Like, today I am in this relationship with you. And it doesn't mean that like time, it means today. And I'm meeting you today.
Beautiful.
Like having it sucks. We live in a part of the world that unfortunately is very bad for headaches for Vincent. So that's often, and I see that I spent 12 years doing work with serious postpartum depression after the birth of a child. Else that like, you communicate your mental state and ways you interact with other people in your life for ongoing, and to recognize that as each morning. Here's the key. You can, that you have, and you get to do ever. From like parenting, being a partner, being a game collaborator, being a podcaster, whatever you do, with what you have in the time at hand. Amazing. And you're like, I am queen of the universe and my children sing my praises and people in other countries want to listen to me talk about stuff. Sometimes it's like, hey, most of the time it's like, all right. Sometimes it's crap and you hate everything. Like, I hate everything. And I feel everything these days. It's like, okay, if in bed and they are fed at the end of the day, great, done. Have. Tomorrow's going to be a different day. I think it's very easy to get into a space where, and I see this with young designers coming up, where they have to be producing top notch all the time, and they have to be like, I gotta join every game jam and I gotta get my stuff out there. You remember when it was always like, gotta have a new game for Gen Con?
Yeah.
You know, always like, and I just want to say to everybody, you know, just be gentle with yourself, because sometimes you're going to knock it out of the park and it's going to be fantastic, and sometimes it's going to really be crap, and that's okay. That's just true. Everything goes into that middle ground of you're cool, you're doing it cool, you know, and all the tools that you develop, every interaction you have with another person, every time you practice being more clear in your communication, every game design piece that you ever do is like this great array of ingredients or a palette of colors for you to be, oh, I'll use that. Oh, I'll use that. I think there's a big thing right now that I see, especially with all the like wonderful, amazing work going on Itch and Game Jams, where people are under huge pressure to finish every idea.
Oh.
And I think, oh, it's horrible. I think it's horrible.
Yeah.
Tons of ideas. You like boom, 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 boom. Tons of them. And then it's like, oh, that's the idea that I can't let go of, that I keep talking to people about. Them like, Vincent, oh, we got to do this game. It's about fairies and they're in a circus. I know we have to do that, you know? So that's, but if you never let go of that cool idea you had once for 5 minutes, you're never going to get to the bigger stuff. So that whole picture, sometimes it's going to be amazing. Sometimes you're going to make it work for 30 years. Sometimes you're going to be like, I need to change this up. And sometimes it's the changing up within the relationship. We're like, oh, we need to figure out, oh, there's this communication thing we've been doing this way for 28 years. Oh, and it's revelatory.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a right. Right?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. So, regarding the games you both have designed, can you tell? I know this is it's a type of question that no one should ask, but yeah, I'm the Portuguese guy that asks. Can you tell us like what is the favorite game that the one next to you designed, and why?
Oh, that's exciting. I have to think. You go first.
The first one in Playing Nature's Year. What's the name of that game? The Holly and the Ivy.
Holly and the Ivy.
About the hunting the
White
stag that's carrying the new sun in its antlers. That's my favorite of your games.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Why is that?
I like that game a lot.
Because the imagery is my favorite imagery, some of my favorite imagery, and because the game isn't too on the nose. And because that was the first wishing game that I ever knew the designer of. Like, we all play wishing games, right? You know, we wish on Venus, and we wish when we go over the train
blow out a
tracks or
candle,
whatever.
yeah.
And until you designed that game, I didn't realize you could design wishing games.
Surprise!
And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. That
Yeah.
You can design wishing games if you want to.
It's tough that you've designed a lot of games.
I've designed a lot of games.
A lot of games.
It's not really
Okay,
a fair question.
Yeah, and most of them you design. You both designed, so it's
But
hard.
one of the ones that I it's probably Murderous Ghosts.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I know that doesn't quite count because it's, it became a co-designed thing. But here's one of the ways it became a co-designed thing. And I'm just going to keep talking, and I'll trust that everything works out. Nope. I'm too timid of technology. I'm gonna leave the call and have you call back again.
Oh, okay. You don't hear me. Yeah. As a medium. Can you hear me?
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right.
Okay.
So
Awesome. So
Murder.
anytime you want to, I figured it out. Discord, we can hear you every time. So once you don't hear me, you can relog.
Come back.
No problem.
Perfect.
But yeah, you were saying murdering ghosts, and which
Murderous
I was surprised too.
Yes. Well,
We
so
want
here's
to know
why. So
Go ahead.
that's really cool. So Murderous Ghosts builds on a lot of games that we had that we played together, and lots of other stuff, and some of the ideas in there we had definitely sort of talked about a little bit. But the piece where that moment that you described earlier, where I have to become invested in it and to make it our work, you said, we're like, okay, check these mechanics. I remember checking some of the first interactions in Murderous Ghosts of like, how do these work? Because, we probably still might have them marked up of like, oh, that loop doesn't work. The piece that I love and the piece that made me become invested in it was that moment when I saw what it could be in terms of doing audience participation in Murderous Ghosts.
Right.
And
where for me it was a one-on-one game.
Yeah. When originally it was just a 2-player little ghost story. And I was like, hold on. I could play this with 400 people at once. Woo! That is a rush. So that's a really cool thing, and it's so rare to have that kind of space created where a group that large can make a game together, where you can have an entire room of 600 or 600 people play a game together, where they all can be part of it. You can raise your hands. Is it the worst? What's the worst possible thing that can happen right now? That is phenomenally cool.
Beautiful.
The Doom Pilgrim, being able to run the Doom Pilgrim and Siren the Pursuit, like running those on Twitter, is the same sort of thing. Because I didn't know that was possible.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way you're like, oh, I didn't know you could write a wishing game.
Right.
I didn't know you could write a role-playing game that ran in an hour to 90 minutes that 600 people could play together. That's just cool. There's other games.
Pretty cool.
But it's pretty anyway, pretty cool. Yeah.
It was surprising answers.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So regarding Apocalypse World, we're going to talk a little bit. There's a lot of information out there right now, a lot of podcasts and conversations, but there's a rumor, like, is it true that it was a love letter to Meguey?
Yes.
Okay, how did that happen?
Okay, so like I noticed in 2006, 2007, I started writing Apocalypse World in the fall of 2008, and it took 2 years to bring it to publication. So this would have been 2006, 2007, and then in 2008, I realized that I was only making games that I knew Meg would hate.
Okay.
I would say, Meg, you're gonna hate this game. Here's what I'm working on. You're gonna hate this game.
And I would say, yeah, I hate that.
And she would hate that game. Legitimately hate that game. Like, why wouldn't you hate that game? And so with Apocalypse World, I said, I'm gonna make this game. And I don't remember. There were three bullet points about Apocalypse World. It was going to be Apocalypse World, and it was going to do this particular long-term thing in Apocalypse World, right? Like the apocalypse was going to mean this kind of thing, and it's not interesting to talk about, but that's so. And Meg would love it, and so that's why it's a love letter to Meg.
Yep. And so when he first showed me like the first bits,
first thing I wrote was the Brainer playbook.
Yep.
But I don't think I showed it to you until I had four
no,
playbooks,
you had
something
four
like that.
playbooks.
Yeah.
Because I think the first
Four
playbook that
playbooks
I
and the
saw
basic
was
moves
the
and-
gun lugger.
Could be.
And I said, that's me, and I want to blow everything now, and I want in on this, and we're going to make an amazing world, and people get to be totally badass. You get to do amazingly cool stuff, and sometimes it goes catastrophically wrong, and that's just it.
Yep.
Awesome. That's awesome. You can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you. Would you have guessed that the real love letter was the gun lugger?
No,
gun lugger.
no way. I thought it would be Angel. But oh,
No. I'm like, oh, and there's the angel, and Meg is like, I'm not doing it.
But it's beautiful.
Somebody else can play it.
But the gun lugger has its charm, so.
The gun lugger is just amazingly cool. Like Keeler in it, like when you read Apocalypse World, Keeler is my character. That's my
Okay.
That's my everything she does. I did in that game.
Oh, now I'm realizing everything. Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Yeah. Your first playbook was Brainer?
The first playbook I wrote was the Brainer, yeah.
And it dropped full out of his head the way that the Holly and the Ivy did out of mine. It was like, boom.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it had to be, some parts of it were real work.
Oh, yeah.
But that first bit of like, it's just an amazing, a miracle, unbelievable. I still sometimes wonder if that ever actually happens, even though I've seen it happen and experienced it happening like that. That never happens. They're making that up.
But you just make a thing.
Yeah, that you have like a whole vision, you know? It's like sometimes, once in a while.
It happens, right? Like, I'm a new player, of course. I'm a new role player, and I was in my D&D bubble, and it was actually the Brainer. It was Apocalypse World. I tried with Thalassa. I didn't know anyone. I went blind shot trying a new game for the first time without being D&D, and I grabbed Brainer. So coincidentally, Brainer opened my brain to the maelstrom of role-playing games. And yeah, it's my favorite freaking game. Thank you so much for designing this. It's just beautiful.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
It was nothing.
No, it's easy. You have a lot of work, and regarding that work, now designing moves. There are a lot of people talking about moves and how to design moves. But can you like reveal something of how is the process? Do you have like many interactions of that same move? Do you rewrite the move? Do you search the words? Because I like that. I know that Vincent loves to search new words. For its game his games. So how is the process of creating the move and saying, okay, this is the move? Because it's so flexible that somehow it's hard to know that the move is finished or polished.
Yeah. I think that one of the things I recommend to people when they're trying to write a move is like you write the move how you think it should be, right? Like you roll the die on a 10, this happens on a 9, you know, the standard thing. Write it how you think it should be, and then you gotta turn it sideways. You know, if your thing is on a 10, everybody dies. On everybody that you're shooting, like, okay, I'm gonna shoot everybody. On a 10, everybody dies. On a mixed success, a couple people die. On a miss, I don't know, I shoot my friend. Okay, cool. You got to turn that sideways. It's it's just sitting there in a box, you know. If I'm trying,
what on earth do you mean?
well, you can answer in a minute. When I'm designing a move, and we'll go with this, like, okay, Keeler, I want to shoot everybody. Okay. So the move that I want, how you're looking at me with like, what are you talking about?
Keep talking. I'll figure it out.
So I want to shoot everybody. I've got this big ass gun. I want to shoot everybody. I want to see if I can. And if I can, what I want to be looking at is, okay, yes, I can. On a 10 plus, on a 10 plus, I have no regret. I know that I've done that. I'm good.
You know you did it on purpose.
I did it on purpose, and I can walk away clean, and I have no regret. On a mixed hit, it's gonna linger. I do it, but it's gonna linger. And on a miss, well,
on a miss, you have to decide.
I have to decide whether I'm gonna do it or not.
Yeah.
Because I'm already weighing it.
Yeah.
Isn't that much more interesting?
It is.
It's way more interesting. You gotta look at it sideways. So, to write a good move, I think you need to have a clear objective. Like, what are you trying to do? And then you need to look at, like, okay, what would it be like if it was just, okay, I do it a little less good, I don't do it.
And sometimes that's perfect.
And sometimes that's perfect. Yeah. And then, but also look at it sideways. How else might it affect your character, the world, what else is in play? Maybe I do it all and it goes off perfectly, and that means that if on a miss, there's a connection that doesn't get made because I just mowed down the people that were going to make that connection, and now I've got announced future badness coming right at me. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, that's does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
That's a lot of sometimes what it's like when one of us is like, I don't see what you're saying, but we have the very like, okay, I'm just going to listen and I'd work it out. Yeah.
Yep.
What do you have an answer?
Yeah, no, so I say the same thing. I say, if you're working on a move, sometimes you just nail it on the first try and that's fine. That's awesome. But if you have to work on one, the things I do is I change who asks questions and who answers them. So if I've been looking at it from the point of view of here are the questions I get to ask, I'll say, no. The GM gets to ask me questions, or the GM has to ask me questions. Like if the GM has to ask me, at the end of this, where are you standing? Right? Like that's a powerful reversal of who's in control.
Yeah.
So change who is asking questions and who's answering them. Change who's vulnerable and who's not vulnerable. And there's a third one, but I can never remember all three.
No problem. No.
Explode the possibilities into all of their pieces and then choose from those.
Yeah.
Rather than on a 10 plus you to 9, it almost happens or it sort of happens or whatever. Mm-hmm. To say you want all 5 of these things on a 10 plus, you get 4 of them. On a 7 to 9, you get 3. That's a really, if a move isn't coming together very often, one of those 3 approaches will solve it.
Yeah.
The golden tree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Or maybe it was 4.
That's like to build a move. But what about before? How can you? Is there a method to see or to reach or to understand what should be a move on my game? Because there's now like hundreds of Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Yeah.
And there are good ones, there are okay ones, and there are soft ones, hard ones.
Like I said before, sometimes it's amazing. Most of it's okay, that's good. Yeah, go. Yeah. And sometimes
So sometimes I see games that use the same moves and the game is not about the same thing. So how do you actually don't fall into that trap of using the same thing a designer made it. So how can I? My game is about this, so I should make a move about that. How does that work in your brains?
I will tell you how I do it. And this is the opposite of how many of my esteemed colleagues do it. This is the opposite of how I believe this is the opposite of how Avery does it. I know this is the opposite or did it. I know this is the opposite of how Adam and Sage did it. They give people the opposite advice, so I don't know. But what I do is I think of the adjectives that distinguish the characters in the genre, right? So if we're making a ghost hunting game, one of the characters is more sensitive, one of the characters is more brave, one of the characters is more patient, right? And so I want the characters to be different in those ways, right? And that is just an emotional, for me, thematic reaction to the genre. And then the moves are how you show that you're more patient, how you show that you're more brave, how you show that you're more sensitive. And so that gives me my list of basic moves. Just by me making bullet points that say, if you're more patient, when you are being patient, here's what you do. Yeah. When you're being brave, here's what you do. When you're being sensitive, here's what you do. Yeah. And that gives me that list. And then the list can change. I discover that 2 moves overlap, so I throw one away, and that there's a whole design iteration process that you go through inevitably to arrive at your final set. But that's how I get my initial set is by the stats are what make the characters different, and the moves are how you show your stats. How I do it.
That's awesome. Golden advice by Vincent Baker, guys. So
I hope it's helpful.
No, it is because we often see a lot of games with the same moves, and we talk. I try to talk with some of my pals, and why this game has the same move? Why it does? And then I look at Under All the Wheels, and it's another game.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that with Apocalypse World, I tried very hard to create a really solid set of basic moves that were broadly applicable, that work in sort of the action thriller genre, not just the post-apocalypse genre. And so it doesn't surprise me when I see a game that's basically an action thriller game using very similar basic moves. That never surprises me. Those are good basic moves
there's lots
for
of
an
reasons.
action thriller game.
Yeah.
A crime thriller game, any kind of like character-driven thriller.
Yeah, but if you're doing something,
if it's on HBO, these are good basic moves, right?
But I think that there's another piece, which is design. You have to trust yourself. And that if you're drawing from Apocalypse World, powered by the apocalypse, sometimes you have to trust yourself. You're good. You've got it. Go. It's good. If you're doing something that isn't an action crime thriller, and these basic moves or character books are not going to be a good fit, let the powered by the apocalypse, Apocalypse World engine sort of simmer on the back burner. Like let that influence things, but figure out what it is. What are you acting? It's okay. Go do it.
Yeah. Your vision is what makes your game good.
Yeah.
Not my vision.
Yeah. Not that it has our moves in it. It's
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. That's awesome, really. So, powered by the apocalypse, it's the engine, and nowadays it's popular. It works very well. It has hundreds of games, maybe thousands. I don't know. I'm not counting.
No.
It doesn't even have hundreds. It has between 1 and 200.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good number.
That we know of.
That you know of, right? Because there's a lot of on each that it's just too much.
Once
But
upon a time, we
it-
had every single Powered
Yeah.
by the Apocalypse game.
Once
that
upon
was
a
years
time.
ago.
those days ago.
It's true, and it's amazing,
It's impossible to track. So
and we're incredibly proud of it. So
tell me, when you were designing the game, was that a consequence of, oh, your game is really easy to hack, is really easy to make another version of it, or were you intentionally designing something hackable, something that
Yes.
I often say that this game shouts to be made to other aspects. Was that intentional?
yeah, I think so.
By
We tell you how to do it in the book. Like if you want to hack this.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it's very, very well written. Thank you.
oh, thank you. You're kind. By the time I had written those first 4 playbooks,
Mhm.
I had that feeling, and I cultivated it. Like I let that feeling lead me through the
Mhm.
design. Let it have its say on, and there are places in Apocalypse World where I could have done things more efficiently, but I wanted to provide more examples of how you could design differently, right? I wanted to create more
Mhm.
more branches. If you look at well, anyway.
Yeah, and like one of my design goals, because I had written 1001 Nights by then, which has very clear design goals about helping people tell stories, supporting GM-ship in different ways, and so having a design goal of not just like how can you GM this game, but how can you GM games? How can you make more games? How do you craft players that you are invested in, or not players, characters and settings that you're like, awesome, I can make this come alive. So we're hopefully like giving tools for people to do that, and I hope so. I hope we have. I think we have.
Yeah,
Apparently.
also people
Yeah.
like it.
Okay.
But yeah, by the time we published the first edition in 2010, Monster of the Week was underway, Monster Hearts was underway, Dungeon World was underway. It was a race to be the first to publish.
Monster.
Those 3.
Yeah.
Any one of those, like, it was pretty important to me that I publish first. Pretty important to me, but I felt that pressure. Like I was on their timeline to get that book out.
Yeah, because there were people who saw that when it was just Google Docs.
Yeah,
Whoa,
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Avery and John Harper and
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
John Harper.
a bunch of
yeah.
So he said in the chat, he hacked it in the night. He got the playtest stuff in.
He did. I remember that.
That's right. He
oh my
did
goodness.
beat us to publication. Fortunately, it was just a little couple page game.
So technically, yeah,
But no, it was. I knew
It's
what was
crazy.
coming. We knew what was coming.
for sure.
Do you knew that like it was this big of a wave?
I don't think we could have
I
predicted
knew that it could be.
exactly, but we were. I think there was like a hopefulness of like maybe the cracking open the world's psychic maelstrom so that something can emerge. Hopefully.
Oh, it happened.
Yikes.
Yikes.
What a thing to say.
I mean, come on.
It's thematical.
Anyway, so we barfed blood over the whole world. That was our. Anyway.
That's beautiful.
So I knew that it was possible. I didn't know what would happen, obviously,
Of course.
but I knew that I could see that it was possible.
Yeah.
Like at that point, we'd been publishing games for 10 years. It wasn't,
Yeah. Well, and also we had a community, like some of the people we've named, Avery and John and Luke and Emily and Ananthropy and like different people. So being supported by a community of people who were interested in like that we like bounce ideas off of and interested in each other's ideas is also hugely fruitful. And I don't think we could have done Apocalypse World without that sort of piece as well.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think that
no.
it's really important that,
Like
Apocalypse World the brainer fell out of your head, but it didn't come out of a vacuum. You know, we'd spent a decade in community with, you know, showing up at each other's house and, you know, playing games together. So yeah.
And even with Apocalypse World, like, it was really fruitful for Apocalypse World itself to have Monster Hearts and Monster of the Week and Dungeon World in development at the same time. That
there's a Monster Hearts, Monster of
those,
the Week,
those
Dungeon
are the,
World.
Those are the three that were
Blades
that
in the
came
Dark.
out that year.
Yeah,
Blades
I
in
know,
the Dark
but
was a couple of years later.
I feel like there's one other one.
Is John listening? Ask John how many years later it was.
John is listening.
Good.
Hi, John. But no, it was very fruitful for me to have other people working on those games. Where I could see it.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. Now, can you, regarding Apocalypse One, and then we move on to other topics, can you tell us what was the hardest thing to design on Apocalypse World and why?
Yes.
Okay, you go first.
The driver.
Oh.
Yeah, I think the driver remains kind of a challenge because they leave.
Driver got radically changed between first and second edition. Changed the driver radically. I'm working on Over, which is another version of Apocalypse World, and the driver is being a giant pain in my butt.
Are you talking about Burning Over? Okay.
Driver is
a problem
in the of post-apocalyptic world, like pointing to Mad Max and things like that. There is a driver. You know, there are vehicles. There is a driver,
but ignore it.
You can't ignore it. But it's a pain to write for.
Oh.
Because, and my theory is that, first of all, when you have a driver, then it directs the game so strongly. I mean, if the rest of you are all set in your little hard hold and you're staying right here, and there's a driver, that pulls the game in a direction that has to have like a reason for them to be doing their thing. And I think that's why one of the reasons it was hard to design for, hard to write for, is like, how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, so in Mad Max, the driver arrives and stays.
Yeah.
And goes away again at the end. And so what does the driver do during, right?
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird. I don't know.
So that was hard.
That was hard. The workspace rules for went through a couple of iterations.
Yeah.
Some of the basic moves went through several iterations, but the hardest thing was the driver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's curious. So, as you talk about burning over, right? Apocalypse World PG-13.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on it? What aspects are way different than Apocalypse World? Why is it being designed?
Well, okay, so our kids, we have 3 kids. The oldest is 20 something.
22, 19, and 13.
And 13. Ask me their names, I won't remember. And so the older 2 kids have been playing role-playing games with their group
since they were 13.
Since they were kids. And, you know, when they turned 17, 18, 19, they started playing Apocalypse World. And I was not comfortable with them playing it before then, and they didn't want to before then or whatever. Anyway, so now the 13-year-old has his gaming group, and he's grown up on stories about how awesome Apocalypse World is from his brothers. And so he wants to play Apocalypse World, but they're like 12 and 13 and 14. I'm not comfy.
There are some certain topics.
You know, it's just
and text.
And like, I know that if they were playing and I didn't know about it, that would be fine. But but like I you know, whatever. And so that's why I'm creating Burned Over, is because Toby wants to play Apocalypse World, and
there's a second reason.
I want to say yes to him. There's a second reason?
Yeah, the second reason is because there are people who have said, gosh, I really love everything about this, but I feel like they don't want, they're just a little bit, they want it a little more reserved. They want a little bit further distance.
Sure.
And that's great. And here's the place where it's important to me. If Burned Over can come out and can give a whole nother range of people who would not pick up Apocalypse World and use it as a basis to get their stories out there, but they could pick up Burned Over just because it says on the cover, this is gentler, or this lets you have a little bit more distance from, sex, drugs, and guns, I guess, or whatever.
And those are the things that gives you more distance.
Yeah. And if that gives more people an option to use Burned Over as a way to get their ideas out there, then we're all for that.
Okay. So it's oh, they are reloading. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Yep, we're good.
Yeah, we heard everything. So it's a reachability aspect.
Yeah.
Reachable people.
For both exactly, accessibility, but for our own kids and our youngest kid and his friends, and also for more people. Like, can we make it more accessible while holding true to the vision of it? Yeah.
Beautiful.
And I mean, I'm more reserved as a gamer than I was when I was 35 or however old I was when I made Apocalypse World. Like, I don't need the. It's like I
have to tell a little story. So we went to this came out. It's full of D&D. Our public library is doing a whole Stranger Things and D&D series, which were big. We showed up. Yay, good. A little microcosm of something that I see more broadly, which is, as we get older, the world is more frightening. So there's this desire, and I've seen this in the 80s, really, of like this desire to like more and more in layers of padding, like, oh, be sheltered, be sheltered, be sheltered. Don't let anything bad or dangerous or hurtful or harmful or negative ever happen to you. We are aware of the horrors of childhood in many ways is great. People need to live. You are gonna see things that upset you. You are going to be heartbroken. Kill stuff. It's true. This place that we, at the library, who's talking about, like, do you adjust this down for younger kids? And it's behind me who are 14, because I asked them later. They don't have anything to do with it being dumbed down and lightened up. 12-year-old girl, and I am here to kill things. I need a sword, give me monsters, and I'm gonna mess shit up. That audience, that they exist. I was that girl. Sure. I think that there's a thing to wrestle with there in Burned Over, and in lots of things where we're like, okay, is it a game for children? For children out of there. Of story. What kind of story are you telling? I want to play a story that's tender and sweet and is about little woodland creatures in a meadow. And that's almost Tales of Timberwind, which our middle kid is writing. Gosh, my Tales of Timberwind character is a jam merchant. She's a bunny and she sells jam, and we're going to the festival, and it's very important. And but to say that is a children's story is really crappy to both adults and children. Obviously, there's some things where it's appropriate. Like, okay, this is not for kids. This deals with adult subject matter. But what does adult subject matter mean? And how does that disrespect the levels in which a young person wrestles with the monsters that they're facing in their emotions and their world of, like, with big questions of, like, I don't like the biggest questions that you wrestle with really hard when you're 8 or 12. They're freaking huge. And I think I think that's important to not just say, oh, they need soft little games where they play sweet things. No, there needs to be a great diversity of games for a great diversity of people. And some kids are going to be 8. I was 8 when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm just going to kill things because that's what I need to do. And some people who are 48 really just want to be a bunny rabbit farmer and make jam. So I think that's a important part of Burned Over also, is that it's not just for kids, it's to give more people more access no matter what. And if kids like it, great. If a parent is more comfortable with their 12-year-old having a copy of Burned Over when they wouldn't have bought a copy of Apocalypse World, fabulous. Maybe that kid gets to express themselves in ways they wouldn't, practice communication skills in ways they wouldn't, grow to feel confident in their ability to tell a story. All these things that role-playing gives to people. So, yeah, that's why.
And I should hear that 8-year-old girl. The Burned Over is still pretty violent.
Well, yes. I mean, we are taking good care of the 8-year-old girls who and boys and non-binary people and everything in between. The people who are like, I'm 8 or 10 or whatever, and I just give me the massive fireball and let me destroy things. Yeah, we're doing that.
But I gotta say that the Bunny Jam merchant won me and won the chat. So yeah, we are in love with it.
Yes.
So,
she's so sincere.
It's beautiful, and I want to talk about that in a while. Let's swap to. I will not ask what games are you designing right now because we can see that you are designing a lot of stuff as we converse.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the casual games, and it's curious that you wrote somewhere, I can't remember where, that you are designing a new collection of casual games, the Wizard's Grimoire. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are you trying to express? Because we can see that
wizards are awful and they need killing.
That's true, but we can see that there's new stuff or different stuff or the same stuff in a new way. There's something that what are you trying to do?
I daren't say.
I have an idea.
No, I mean, I know the answer.
Well, I have an answer too.
Tell me your answer.
Okay, so switching up who's asking the questions. If I'm in a position, you are all the GM and you're all playing it relieves pressure in different ways. If you have one person who has to be on all the time, that's tough. And we did a pretty good job with Apocalypse World of not having one person be on all the time. But the Wizard's Grimoire and Firebrands Bloody Quest and that game, that suite of games, makes that even more even. And one thing that I love is the human footprint, which we started with Apocalypse World. This has to be fun now, and it has to fit in an adult work schedule that has like friends and family and people get sick and jobs and all that sort of stuff. But with the Wizard's Grimoire games, it ends at any time. Oh, cool. We play over coffee. Oh, something. Okay, we're done. Wow. That's really cool. So that's the sort of thing. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I love making the player responsible for the continuity, right?
Right.
You're the one who wants to play a wizard. This is on you, right? You have to bring the wizard. I'll answer your questions. I'll make stuff up because I think it's funny. But if you want to play a wizard, you got to be the wizard. You got to do the work.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I really love games. With those games, than 2.
I find it works good up to 4.
Yeah, something
more
like
than
that.
4. It begins to be like someone's not getting heard, able to contribute.
But having those 2 GMs, it really just so effortless, and It's that. So check me on this.
Okay.
I turn to you and I say, I'm facing a whole bunch of soldiers. They've got me surrounded. How many of them are there?
You want the number?
No, I don't want
Okay.
the number. I cheat. You make up a number that is easy. You might make up a number that's hard. You might, like, you have, you have, if you're the GM, trust you.
Mm-hmm.
But if I turn to you two and I say
Two
how
of
many
us.
there are, you two discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? How many?
Maybe
Right now, I can
10.
trust you.
I was thinking a little higher.
10 is
Okay.
great. I'll take 10, right?
How do you feel about 15? 15?
Okay, we can go with 15.
I'll take 15. Ruby, thank you. Now I know that whatever agenda you have, at least two of you have that agenda, right? At least I'm outvoted. It's not that.
Yeah.
And so that conversation happened in front of the player. Transparency in the GMing that I really think it's neat.
The other thing I really like about it is that the incidents of the moments of surprise
Mm-hmm.
happen more for everybody. Of like, I didn't know there were 15. You know,
Right.
Yeah.
If I say, are they on foot or on horseback? And somebody says ostriches, we're all like, what?
what ostriches? Cool.
They're riding ostriches? Now what am I going to do?
They will kill you. Those ostriches.
I know I don't want to. Never mind.
Their feet.
I'm glad we're not playing.
they are giant death birds, and you better be careful.
I'm being careful.
Beautiful. No, it's quite beautiful that you are messing with stuff, and I think Vincent wrote on Twitter that Wizards Grimoire messed up with your idea and concept of GM.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's now I'm like, if a game says, okay, Vincent, you're the GM, I'm like, oh, that's so much work. Why can't Meg and I be the GM and then we don't have to work? It's easy and fun. Like, why do I have to do this?
That's so you're designing a game where no one is a GM because you have the player and voluntary.
Yeah.
I see it. And it comes back to the all RPG as a conversation because me and Meg
exactly.
had a conversation to figure out how many were there. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
but there's a thing. We tried and we play, like me and Talasa, we go every Wednesday we play your game. So it's a thing we had at a local shop. And there
That's
was
the same with us.
Wednesday, really?
Yeah. Wednesday morning, the two of us and Epi get together and talk, and Elliot gets together and talk about games and play games and test game ideas every Wednesday.
Your morning is our afternoon, so we are doing it at the same time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that.
That's beautiful. I love how the universe works.
Sometime we should actually do it together. We could do it over Discord and have it actually together.
That'd be fun.
Wouldn't that be cool? That'd be cool.
Oh, I am honored. Thank you. That would be awesome, really. So,
yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So, see, we play your games when we are playing Wizard Grimoire. There's a player who only play D&D, and we do a lot of stuff that we are on the local store. There are players going, oh, I want to try D&D. No, come over, sit here. And we ruin them. So, he plays with us, and after the game finishes, he says an expression that it told me something, but maybe you can explain better. Okay. He was a voluntary, and he told that the game slipped through his fingers. It was always going. It never stopped. It was we didn't have that moment. I want to open the door. Damn it, I can't. The game was always going and moving, and he said the game was slipping through my fingers, but it was awesome, and I don't know how. Why did he say that? Can you figure it out?
That's fabulous.
That's really
I
interesting.
love that. I've had.
Was he The volunteer.
the volunteer.
One of the volunteers.
He was
One
a
of-
volunteer, or
Yeah.
he was a volunteer. So he was one of the co-GMs.
I was the player.
Interesting. Did you have that same feeling that you were sort of not being able to follow the threads of the game, or did you feel like you had a secure sense of where you were?
I was pretty comfortable. I felt that the game didn't stop. We made so much stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible because there's I can't even explain, because you guys out there, you must try it, because you just do stuff and stuff happen, and then you do, and it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And we finish the game and then we breathe. Oh, okay. Whew, what an adventure. Poor Blizzard. Yeah, he went through a lot of stuff. And then he said that the game slipped through his finger in a good way, because it felt good. But
That's good.
Yeah, you can't. It's interesting.
There's a reason why.
So it slipped through my fingers.
Is it that you not familiar with the idiom, or
No,
I don't think I think you yeah that okay. Go.
So, well, I mean, that's really interesting.
Here's the reason why. Here's why it happens that way. Because when you have one person as the GM or the storyteller or whatever, they can the whole piece in their head. And they can do things like Vincent's doing now, where you think quietly and you put those pieces together, and the connections form in a way that feels holistic to you. And when there's multiple GMs, everything's happening much more quickly. You are not responsible for holding the whole story in this way. It's more like I'm holding this bit, and then I'm pouring the water into your hands, and maybe some splashes out, and then you have to pour it back into my hands. You have to pour it back into my hands. And it's just like this transfer back and forth all the time. So pieces, there's so much more that comes out design-wise. And you're going to miss things. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love it. But if you're co-GMing and then you just say, okay, there's 10 soldiers, and I say, okay, there's 15. And you say, oh my God, ostriches. I have to now update what I've said. Okay, now there are 15 soldiers mounted on ostriches, and I have to adjust that in my head. And then I've said, watch out, they can kill you with their feet. Now you have to update what's in your head about what this picture is. Meanwhile, you as the player are ready to ask another question. So that's the piece where it moves real quick. And while we are updating the scenario, pieces like, oh, that bit, oh, okay. So that, I think, is why it feels both awesome and like I didn't have that bit, and I didn't have, because you weren't responsible for holding all that. You weren't responsible for making all those connections. You just could allow it to unfold before you. Does that seem?
Yep.
Yeah.
True.
it seems really right, and the surprise part is constant. So
Exactly.
You have always that feeling of awesomeness, and going back to Apocalypse, or we feel the same when we connect. When we GM or Apocalypse World, we are always connecting stuff, and it's so much pleasure on the brain side. Because you are always connecting. It's like putting on cables, and it's fun to put cables on. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
So regarding
I have one more point about playing Wizard's Grimoire. One of the things that it does, that I've watched it do, that I find really interesting, is bridge between people who have a little bit of game experience, have a lot of a specific game, like a very specific, like long steeped. I played D&D for 10 years. I'm deep in the weeds with D&D. You've played a couple games, friends, and you don't really, whatever. You maybe know some of the tropes from watching a TV show. But I, as the player, as the barbarian or the wizard, I can work with all of that, and this person's like input or opportunity response from that's based in years of playing D&D is is good and valid, and I can say yes. And then next time, the person who's never played a game before ever and is just really here hanging out can put in, and they're on ostriches, and I can say, awesome, yes, So it bridges that, it breaks that down. And then at the end of that game, and this is a specific game I'm thinking of, at the end of that game, there is an increase in equity between those people where there may have not been before. The people who had never played now have sat down at a table with someone who was really deep into it, and they've had a great time together. And then they can go have ice cream together. In a way that if you are really deep into a game and it might be hard, that's a hard bridge to make. Of, I don't know anything about this and I'm not sure it's for me, or I'm all about this and I'm not sure I can share it with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. So this is
that's pretty cool.
I'm like,
that's pretty cool.
So I'm all in. It's our game now.
Oh, okay.
So just saying, you've seen it here. This is our thing now.
It is on the internet, so it is forever.
So
yeah, I'm excited.
Okay,
it's gonna be good.
Meguey is invested. Yay!
Okay.
Beautiful. So regarding this collection of games, a new collection of games, we have Wizard's Grimoire, we have the Barbarian Bloody Quest, we have the Thief and the Necromancer, and then some expansions or some go-along games within the Wizards and the Last Adventure one. The Red Tome. Yep. Oh, Red Tome is new. Yep. 2 days ago.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Brand new.
Awesome. So now, can we mix this all up? Can we play a wizard and a barbarian?
See, so here's the thing about the wizard and the barbarian, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the Thief and the Necromancer, there are 2 players and 2 volunteers. Mm-hmm. So that's cool, right? Yeah. That's a piece of cake. Anybody can do that.
Everybody can do that.
If you're playing the barbarian, right, and I'm playing the wizard, that's actually pretty neat. In the barbarian book, there is the opportunity for you to be murdering wizards and discovering their grimoires, right? and it makes sense for me to follow you around while you murder wizards and discover their grimoires, right? Because I want those grimoires, right? All I have to do, and we know, I can assure you that I am not the wizard.
Oh, certainly not.
I'm not the wizard who enslaved your family and murdered your people, and that's not me. That's some other wizard. I don't know who it is.
I'm gonna keep checking.
I'll help you find them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, you should try that. Good luck to that wizard. I hope that wizard is okay at the end.
I'm betting not.
Oh my God, there's this hilarious thing. Okay, have you played the Barbarian's Bloody Quest?
No,
you've played the Barbarian.
Not me, but the last over.
Have you looked at the 3 scrolls? So that's one of the grimoires.
No,
the 3?
Yeah, no. Only wizards.
So I'm going to spoil something for all of you people. Are you ready?
Sure?
Yeah, no, I have to. It's so funny.
It is.
It makes me laugh so hard. Okay.
But then you're going to spoil the whole
when you cut open a wizard,
oh yes, there's stuff there.
It comes out, right?
Yeah.
And it could be any number. One of the things that might come out, it just might, I don't know. But when you cut open a wizard, a seething nest of plasmic tapeworms might come out.
Yeah.
That's reasonable, right? Plasmic tapeworms. Sure. Sometimes that comes out of a wizard, right? That's what might happen. It might be fish bones, it might be normal stuff, it might be plasmic tapeworms. That can in the 3 scrolls, there's a way to get plasmic tapeworms with those plasmic tapeworms. Anyway, cracks me up.
Just in case.
There's a connection there.
Good. I think I need to give myself. Yeah. No. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. So I hope that wizard's okay. If you team up with the barbarian, I hope it's okay. It would be really strange to team up with the Last Adventure. Mm-hmm. But you could,
oh my goodness, the barbarian in the Last Adventure would be fun.
It could be.
That could be really neat.
And a wizard in the afterlife
Mhm.
could be like, there are ways
Mhm.
you can do that. Like, I can imagine
Mhm,
that.
mhm.
Anyway, so yes, mix and match. Combine them.
Let's try to
Try it.
mix
Let us
all.
know how it
Try it.
goes.
Okay, we and then we give you the feedback over at Twitter or over at a window into game design. So
Yeah.
awesome. So moving the wheel to the next side.
Yes.
I am in love with the game. You probably know from my long Twitter thread, I've wrote Under the Yellow Wheels. For everyone who does not know Under the Yellow Wheels, Meguey is probably the best person, and Vincent are also, to talk about it. So where did that crazy idea came from? Why are you making this game? Which tools are you developing? There's so much questions within Under Our Wheels, so you can just talk about it.
Oh, I love that game so much.
Me too.
I cannot wait for that game to.
It's amazingly
It's so
cool.
fun to play.
I love everything about it. There are certain times we are under a little bit of what is it,
Non-disclosure.
a non-disclosure agreement
Oh,
because of the other I think I can say entities
The other collaborators.
that we collaborate with on this project. It's been freaking weird, I tell you. Like, we wrote a whole game about the world psychic maelstrom, and we could say anything about that game we want. Write a game that's about the fair folk, our good neighbors, the elfin
That's enough.
places, and we're like, okay, no more. Freaking weird.
I will tell you one thing that happened. We emptied the pennies out of our car, right? The 1 cent pennies out of our car, and just, they accumulate in the drink compartment. We picked them up, we scooped them out, and there was 100-year-old Irish 3 cent piece in there, and I don't know who put it there. I don't know how it got there.
You better still have it.
Yeah, no, I know right where it is.
So stuff like that is happening to us
It's weird.
in the process in the last
No, that's too much. None of that is true.
what?
all of that is true. Here's what I can back up to say. So it's true. This is what's happening. What can I say?
We should talk about the game.
Yeah, we can talk about the game. Like, some of your questions are too loaded to answer.
Yes, of course.
But I can say that. So both of my grandmothers are first generation American. From the Poland-German border, getting out right in advance of the Russian awfulness in the 1900s.
Yep.
And getting out of Sweden right before World War I. So 2 of my grandparents are first generation American from that part of the world. One of my grandfathers is second generation American from Scotland, and his family came over because of the English, murdering Scots. So I have a lot of real close connections to a lot of old fairy tales and folk tales, and then you layer that with growing up really aware of the natural world. So that's like a lot of this coming up, and it's ways in which we are examining what is because yours is all like Danish and so on. What is our heritage, and what does that look like? So we're looking at that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not all the way comfortable with that. But go ahead.
Okay, cool. No, yeah. Because when I think of Under Hollow Hills, that's part of what I'm drawing on my own growing up hearing fairy tales and story tales and all that kind of stories. And you're right. Yeah, no, that's all true, but also I got distracted. Like, that's yeah.
You can hear me, right?
I'm trying to talk about this game. and we have to just write
So,
the game instead.
no,
It's
I mean,
freaking annoying.
There's a bunch of stuff I can say about the game.
Okay, go.
So it's about, for those of you who don't know, it's about a fairy circus that travels through fairyland and the human world, and you are the cast and crew and performers of this
A traveling fairy circus.
This
Thank
traveling
you.
circus. Most of you are fairies, some of you are human. That's fine. But what the game is about is how we treat each other when times are good and how we treat each other when times are bad.
Yeah.
It's really about how a community deals with good times and bad times. How friends deal with good times and bad times.
Yeah, like friends, colleagues.
And
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
And so all of the playbooks are different. I don't want to say different kinds of friends, but they're different ways to be friends, right? They're different ways that I can be your friend is what the playbooks are.
For sure.
And the there's a really cool GM thing in it that right now it's on my plate to write this and to get this right. And that is, it's my job as the GM to be entertained by the circus. We should click back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are not hearing me.
And I can actually talk about it now. Okay.
Yeah, we were following.
Yep. Go.
So it's my job as the GM to be entertained by the game, right?
Mhm.
The little first draft text, or the 5th draft or 20th draft, whatever draft I'm on, the text says, if you perform for the Wolf King of Winter and the show is a flop and he's not entertained, then the show is a flop, right? The show is a dud.
Mhm.
But if I'm not entertained, then the game is a dud. And so, it's my job to be entertained. And that is such a relaxing and
super great,
like really pleasurable place to be as a GM, is for me to say,
I'm here to be
what's your show? I want to hear about the acts. I want to.
Yeah.
I'm here to give you what you need to put on a fantastic show.
I'm here to be a really enthusiastic audience.
Right.
It's the next logical step from be a fan of
Exactly.
of the characters to like just I want to see it, and I want it to be. I'm here for all of the everything.
Right. And I'm here for the off-stage drama, and I'm here for the fight with the Wolf King of Winter, and I'm here for the circus production, and I'm here for the aftermath, and I'm here for everything. Like this is what I'm here to enjoy. This is what I'm here to have fun with.
But I figured out a thing I can say.
What's that?
So there's a couple books that I read leading up to this one, and in the books, the idea of the book is like it's a circus, but when you got to the like circus acting, it flattened out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really disappointed because I wanted a story where where the performance was part of it, where you got to see these, because seeing circus acts or seeing people like it's really amazing.
Yeah, we
and let me finish this.
Okay.
And I wanted to do a game that would fulfill that piece, that instead of it being a book about a circus, where I never got to see a circus performer. I got to hear like bits about or whatever, but I never got to see someone go, ladies and gentlemen, all the magic of that sort of performance. So that's one of the big places where Under Hollow Hills comes from for me, is how do we create the space with the playbooks and the support and the casting the GM as an enthusiastic audience who's there to be delighted. I'm not there to be mystified. There's a ton of other art, but really delighted. I'm so excited to be here. It's so great. I'm eager to see what you can do. And then delivers on that promise, so that when we're writing the game, the part of the design work there is making the performance pieces work, nailing the performance pieces. It's not just like a conceit that you're a circus actor. You're doing this thing. Nathan Pauletta's Worldwide Wrestling comes to mind in a similar way, like going into the ring. He puts you there. It's not just a conceit on your character. It's like, this is what you're doing now. You're doing these things. So that's a real place. And I think an answer to your question that I can give of where does this game come from is a desire to deal with that part of what can a circus be, and then also the magic and mystery and wonder of things that are under the hills. So.
A circus, and also, like, I think probably we've seen more street performers than we have circuses.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, we've been to several circuses and bunch circuses or whatever, but there's a lot of street performance in the playbooks and in the acts and in the stuff. Yeah, and I know people who are circus performers, and do a bunch of different cool stuff. So that's real neat.
Let me add something. Can you? Is it true that the Underdog Wheels was based on the dynamics of a specific community? When I say this now, this was what João Mariano wrote, and I will load it even more. Is it true that each playbook is a friend of yours or a role player you know?
No. No, absolutely not. I mean, I would be really amused to see what people chose for themselves.
Okay.
And, go for that. But no.
Like, each playbook is somebody that I am sometimes, somebody that I see in my friends.
Or that I am sometimes, or that we observe. It's like, this is a type of person.
Right.
There's a couple that just insist on being there, and we can't deny them. So
okay, I see.
That's how that goes.
Yeah, like I don't know a nightmare horse in real life. Whatever. I don't know a nightmare horse in real life, but like the game can't exist without the nightmare horse.
Of course not. He's beautiful. So.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, you could say that again.
And it's beautiful. And like. There was this guy we knew who sort of our I actually can't even.
You can't go further down that.
No, like there was a play, and I can't remember which one. Like one of the playbooks plays is based on this person we knew. But no, this is not about a real community. This isn't about.
It's not a metaphor for role-playing communities. Okay.
No.
Oh well, I mean it's a metaphor.
Metaphor, sure.
Okay.
But it's not like.
I mean,
not yet.
I mean, the circus performance. You can read that as a metaphor for now we're playing a role-playing game, and outside of the performance we're not.
But you can also
we are definitely drawing on that as part of the.
I see.
But I think
it's not.
I think you can as much say it's a metaphor for college, and now like. Here's what we're doing, and now we're doing this thing, or any place where there's two sides. I don't know about college.
What's the rumor?
Yeah.
What's the rumor?
The rumor.
Yeah. What's the rumor?
Well, the rumor is that playbooks are people you know, and that the game is about the role-playing communities and how they react to each other.
No.
I mean, it's neat. I think that's a cool. Sure, enjoy, but none of those layers, right? That's one of the things, and I think this is important. Back to the quilting metaphor of like the way that I design. There's patterns and patterns and patterns, and if someone finds that a useful thing, cool. That's like songs going out in the world and people attaching meaning to them that the artist didn't.
Exactly.
But the thing I would definitely say is like there's no. We're not commenting on particular people.
Okay.
Like The Lostling, right?
Yeah.
The Lostling is one of my favorite playbooks, and it's a love letter to our dear friend Emily, who we've known for 30 years. you know, it it has some qualities that I really admire in Emily, but it's not Emily, right? It's not.
I see.
It's not a stand-in. Like it's not a.
The only one that comes close, Lost Link for Emily, but the other one that comes close is The Messenger, which really is in honor of my beloved friend Camille, who I lost earlier this year. She died. And that one does have a lot of personal resonance. And I had to write it really carefully because it couldn't be about her, and it couldn't be people playing her. But it definitely was a creative thing that I put in the world out and trying to put back into the world some piece of who she was and what she meant to me and to the world. So but that's the only one. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. Oh, is it true, or there's an idea that Under the Yellow Wheels is the game that Meguey wanted to make since ever? Is it true, or?
Yeah, I think definitely for a while. So the funny thing about Under Hollow Hills is that for a couple years, I could only write it if I was at Emily. I could only write it if I was sitting in Emily and Effie's house.
Oh.
And it was raining. And I had unlined white paper, like a little. I could not. I had to write it longhand at Emily and Effie's house if it was raining. Freaking annoying. I'm not even kidding. I have the first manuscript is like 30 handwritten pages on a little white, 8.5 by 11 size. It's 8.5 by 5.5, handwritten. Whatever. Okay. And it's okay. Sorry. I'm very grateful for this. And okay. Sorry.
That's wild.
It's really freaking wild.
So, every game has a muse. And you negotiate a game out of your muse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you do, but all of my games, I negotiate my games out of a muse. That's all I can say about that.
No problem. Okay, let's then switch. It's coming along beautiful.
It's really funny. It's so funny.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's a game we get to play.
We are eager to get more updates from Under the Yellow Wheels.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean,
working with illustrators has been amazing. God, I don't know if you've seen.
So good.
We've tried to retweet Eric Orchard's work for Under Hollow Hills.
Eric Orchard,
yes.
Emily McAllen,
yeah.
Jody Edwards. I think those are Hannah's piece. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna blank on her last name. Oh, I just got to see like little sneak peeks of what Ash is working on. Oh,
yeah, you tweeted about and did not sneak peek anything to us at all. Shame.
I know. Because, well, it was Ash just showed me, like, we were in a video chat, and she's, here, and they said, here's a piece that I'm thinking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but there's not a sketch or anything like that yet. But it's going to be amazing.
It is. I'm sure it will. So I've played a couple of times.
I haven't gotten to see their work either.
Yeah.
I can't wait to.
Okay, Vincent should see first.
We'll find out.
Beautiful.
Working with artists, this is a big thing. Like for Under Hollow Hills, working with 14 different artists that we're currently working with.
That's a lot.
And yeah, it's a lot. They're amazing. I'm so excited. And it's like one of those. It's in a way. Some artists I've never worked with before, but it's so hard to be like, I can't remember the same person wants to work with me.
So I'm losing you. Now I'm checking
Okay,
that.
so let's
Let's relog. Discord tonight is crazy, but I think we are back again. Yes,
again.
yes. Now it was wild for my side too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we managed to get the 13 illustrations, and it is coming along beautifully.
Yes.
It's coming along beautifully.
And I'm really eager. I've played it a couple of times. I'm really in love. It teaches me how to be a better GM, how to have a better conversation. The ruling of the player can only make 2 plays not at the same time, but in sequence. It show me what is really important in the scene or not. So it is already making so much good stuff, and it's not yet published. So I'm eager to see it
Thank you
completed.
so much. That's really kind.
Okay, let me ask you: do you have still a little time to talk about Baker House stuff and something like that?
Sure.
Awesome. So let's change the tone a little bit. What games are being playing right now at the Baker House?
So right now there's three active games happening. There's a our 13-year-old is running Blades of the Dark.
Oh, really?
Super loving it. He's running it for
4 or 5 kids.
about, I think he's running it for 5 players. They're loving it. That's good. There's another that is playing Uncharted Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And some of those are kids who are like at places, and that's good. And then we're playing Tales of Timberwind. I don't know if I would necessarily still call it playtesting. We're just playing it. Publicly released yet.
Okay, that follows perfectly to the next topic, which is let's talk about your kids. What games are they designing?
And there's one more game.
Oh, tell us.
Yes, we not in our house, but we've been playing it. It lives it wakes.
It lives it wakes.
It
lives it wakes.
Which is
Epidaya Ravishaw's game about where you get together and play out a Godzilla movie. It's wicked fun.
It sounds wicked fun.
It's really fun.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So I was saying, this follows perfectly to the next topic, which is let's talk about your kids in a way that what are their names, how old are they, and apparently they are designing games. Which games are they designing?
Oh, I have to guess how old they are. Sebastian is the oldest. He's 20. I want to say 2 because you told me earlier. He's 22.
Good job.
Is that,
yes, he's 22.
So his birthday's in October. I know that.
Yeah, good.
So I thought he just turned 21, but
No,
he turned 22. That's unreal.
Time
It's
flies.
unreal.
Yeah, man.
Elliot is 19 and Tovi is 13.
Yeah.
See, it wasn't actually a test. Tovi
Mm-hmm.
confronted me about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
He said to me, "Dad, is the reason you call me like Dr. Jam and Mr. Fish and Scample J. McChesney, is the reason you call me these things because you don't remember my name?" And I said, "Yes."
Oh, poor guy. No.
Yeah. So that's
Time
the
flies.
names.
Time flies.
And it's amazing how time goes.
In my defense, ask me how old I am. I don't know.
You're 47.
I would have to do the math to figure out how
40.
old I am.
You're 40. You're gonna
I
be
believe
47.
you. I believe you. I have no reason to
I'm
doubt
just telling
that that's
you,
true.
you're gonna be 47
But
in a couple days.
it's that's true.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Next week sometime. I want to say.
Friday.
Okay, leave you.
Then this Friday or the next one?
I don't know.
So,
Telling.
So we can sing birthday to you at that time, of course.
Maybe. She says
Anyway, what are the other questions?
The other question is they're designing games.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
games?
Yeah, so Elliot.
We could get them all here. You could talk to them.
Oh,
Elliot. So it's like a family business, right? And Elliot is really stepping into the family business.
big
There's
way.
space for all of them, and they all like designing games. But Elliot is really stepping into the family business. And
Well, Sebastian, who's sitting over there.
hi, Seb. We're talking about you.
you.
hey, hi.
Sebastian
Hi from
Sebastian
hi from a Portuguese guy.
he's saying hello from Portugal. He's waving. So he just graduated from college. So for the past several years, he's been very busy with college.
Of course.
And there's Toby. But they've all been designing games since forever. And I think they get that naturally because Vincent and I have been designing games forever. Like when we were kids, that's what we did. You know, when my sister and I were little, I mean, when I first played D&D, she was 5, and that's what we did.
So
they have really good design ideas, and we are not easy. In terms of like, oh, of course it's good. You know, it has to be good. And so the work that they do,
especially as they start approaching publishing.
Yeah, like, and I think one of the hard things is, like I said earlier, getting any of them to accept that you don't finish every idea. It's really fine to work on something real hard for a day or a week or a couple months and then go, oh, this really isn't going where I want to. I've lost interest, or I've really learned the thing I want to learn from here and I'm going to move on, or crap, I'm just busy doing other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest pieces for each of them to learn in turn, as they see that, like, they see the work that we do. And I think that until they have reached a certain age, they don't as easily see all the work that we abandon, all the conversations we have with our friends and be like, okay, well, and I'm dropping that game or whatever. Now I think they have a better perspective of that, and the work that they're doing is good.
Yep.
And it's exciting to see their design work. They have insights that we couldn't have just based on being younger and based on having such an abundance of games to pull from.
Yeah.
You know, and that's amazing. We have a heck of a lot of game books in this house. Well, a lot. It's a lot. Yeah, is there anything more specific? Like, yeah, they all design games, and it's a joy to see. And a curse. We joke that we're sorry. We have inflicted at least 1 or 2 of them with the family curse. Or Sebastian says, or 3. Okay.
Or 3. Wow.
Well, I don't know. I'd have to see. I'd have to ask Toby.
Have you heard Toby talk about Into the Fray?
Oh, that's right. Toby's writing Into the Fray.
Yeah, I know.
They're all cursed.
They all
Cursed with game
Oh,
design.
so it's a curse. It's not a gift.
It gets you out of bed in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
drags your ass to that
It interrupts
broken
your
desk,
yeah,
and
it interrupts your
Uh-huh.
meals. It
Mhm.
interrupts your family events. It demands that you, like, we're all home right now. Why couldn't we go on vacation? We could go somewhere. We could drive. No, we got to write this thing. You know, we've got to do this stuff.
gotta publish
We've gotta-
those things.
This, right? Like,
No, don't show him. Don't show him.
Oh,
I'm gonna
Oh,
I'm gonna
my.
show him. Okay, let's see. I have to do the window bigger. Okay. All right. Let's click on me. Okay, whatever. Anyway, can you see that big pile of boxes over there?
yes, we see the big pile of box.
Yes.
Yes. A lot of boxes.
A lot of boxes. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that's the rest of The King is Dead.
Yes, I figured it out.
So that's the other piece.
it's
of,
a
like,
giant pain.
we could, sure, let's go somewhere, do something, but instead we have to fulfill these boxes and ship these boxes, and so it's work.
We're almost done.
Family curse, but yes, that's it. I'm excited.
So game design as a family business is a
On to the next
curse.
Oh,
Oh,
can't
lost
hear
you.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Yeah, they lost me.
Oh,
There
no,
you go.
now we can
Now
hear
you're
you.
back.
Oh, really? That was
Yep.
Yeah.
surprising. Okay. So I was
I-
I was
Go ahead.
saying like game design as a family business is a curse.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but do you think
But
like
it's
do you think it's that they have born somehow with the gift or the blessing of how to design, or do you think that you somehow you influence them because of the amount of games you play, the type of conversations?
No matter what they were born with, they think it's normal to make a game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that basic question, nature versus nurture,
Mm-hmm.
and there are definitely skills that each of our kids have that we have not been able to nurture because it's just not. As a little kid, 3, he could name every kind of sports ball and throw, and he could do that. If he had been born into a family that was rich in sports knowledge, natural in that.
Yeah.
Sportual, we don't sport. We
So
don't.
we weren't able to cultivate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also how
And,
it goes. Like
you know.
everybody has that. I think every kid has that in life of like everyone has all kinds of stuff that are potential. It's like potential.
Yeah.
And then what do you nurture and what comes into your world? He's a fantastic sculptor because we were able to nurture that.
Right.
Mhm.
But each kid has different gifts. They did each they did grow up thinking that writing a game was a natural, normal, like publishing a book
Mhm.
was a natural, reasonable thing to do.
Makes sense.
No,
Elliot's solution to a game not doing.
you have to
things-
come here to see.
Okay.
All right, this is Sebastian, guest appearance.
Hello.
Hi, Sebastian.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
You have
to
to be
meet
right-
you too.
I don't know if you
Hunker
can
down.
see me.
Bend your knees.
Here,
Uh,
scooch, sit.
okay.
Or lean
What's
in.
better than one baker? It's not two, but 3 bakers.
Okay, so say quick.
So Elliot's solution to a game not working exactly how he wants is to design a whole new game. He,
That's a reasonable thing to do.
Well,
Well, no, but
I mean, like,
yeah,
he doesn't really do house rules so much as like I'll just make a whole new game.
Yeah.
And
yeah, he learned that from us, and we're
yeah.
and we're sorry. I mean, that's a rough thing to put on a person. Yes,
Whoa.
you're right.
kind of fun.
Yeah, and he's-
and I mean, and then eventually you publish, and that's neat.
That's
It's
cool.
fun.
so that's how that goes. I think that it's the exposure to the conversation, like how that you analyze, have a broad exposure to stories in a ton of different mediums, and that we have cultivated that from the very like basic things like eating, that we've exposed them to as a huge wide range of food. We take them to museums all the time. We read a ton of books, a lot of different music, playing games of all kinds of different games,
Mhm.
and have all kinds of different conversations. Like sometimes I'll tweet about it, like dinner conversation, like what kind of snow pants would a dinosaur need? Whatever. And just to cultivate a curious mind. There's some things I say that I wanted for my kids, that I wanted them to grow into people who were, curious, compassionate, curious, creative, and connected to their community, and contributing in ways that mattered. And that's the bedrock of my parenting ethic, is raising people who are compassionate, curious, creative, connected to a community, and contributing in meaningful ways. So when I look at that rubric, which I put for myself, I'm feeling pretty good about it, which gets me through the days when I'm like, oh my God, everything I've done today is wrong. So, yeah.
That's fascinating. we are really glad to know that at the Baker House, game design is a family business, and
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's also a curse. But it's the side effect.
Yeah.
Well, that's really really fascinating. So let's start to wrap up our conversation. Very long conversation. Thank you so much. So
But that's what you get when you get both of us. It just everything is exponential. So sorry about that.
oh, don't be sorry. We are very glad we don't have this opportunity every week. So we nurture it. So where can we find you over at social media stuff? Where? Go ahead.
It's okay.
On Twitter, I am at Lumpley Games,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I'm at Night Guy Games.
and on Patreon, you can find me at Patreon/Lumpley. Is that how Patreon works? Anyway, it's Lumpley.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's yes. Patreon.com/Lumpley. Why Lumpley? By the
Sounds
way.
good.
Why
Why
Lumpley?
Lumpley?
Oh, that's a good
I
question.
will tell you why
Oh.
Lumpley. Thank you for asking. When I needed an email address because I was in my 20s or however old
Early
I
20s.
was, and I typed Vincent Baker into hotmail.com. Hotmail.com said Vincent Baker is already taken. Would you like Vincent Baker 7741?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll bet nobody's taken Lumpley at Hotmail. And I was right. Nobody had taken it. And then
That's it.
That's what it was.
That's the whole reason.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Simple and effective.
By the time I launched my first game, I was stuck with it. I've been Lumpley online
Just-
for a while.
Can you imagine? Like, thank goodness, right? There are so many worse email addresses that one could have chosen.
Yes.
Really, yowza! So well done, you.
Well done, me.
Good job, past self.
Good job indeed.
And so the Patreon, our games are on itch. We're on Twitter. I'm on Facebook.
I think we're at itch./Lumpley.
itch/Lumpley. I'm on
Not-
Facebook.
Not
But
in this case. It's lumply.itch.io. It's
Lumply.itch.
reversed. Yeah.
Okay.
I got you covered.
Thank you.
The Powered by the Apocalypse forum
Mm-hmm.
is
Apocalypse
Apocalypse
World
World.
with a hyphen. Apocalypseworld.com with a hyphen.
Mhm.
Oh, this is a secret. Don't tell anybody. I'm launching a new blog at lumply.games. I got lumply.games, and so I'm excited about that. They
Yeah.
opened .games. There's nothing there. I mean, you can go there
look,
if you
but
want.
it's not a thing yet. But it will
Really?
be.
Lumply.games.
Yeah.
A new blog?
Yeah.
But
A new
no,
thing,
no,
a
not a
s-
new blog. Not
Oh.
a new blog.
Something will happen there, but we're
Okay.
not sure yet.
okay.
That-
But the window into game design will not die, right?
Oh no, that's
Okay.
yeah, that's
I'm probably over the next 15 20 years going to move it over to lovely.games, but that's not you'll
worry.
know when it happens.
Don't worry.
It's not
it's just
um like I made that forum, the window into game design forum, by hand, and it's terrible and I hate everything about it. And
but except the people. We love the people.
of course I love the people. No, I'm talking about the technology.
Well, yeah.
But
And so-
the content is golden. Come on. Save
Thank
it
you.
before you somehow have a wild decision and just I don't know,
Burn it.
but please don't save it.
No. I intend to migrate that over to a forum that's a little more robust that we
Yeah.
can use. That's
It's-
not happening yet.
It's a lot of things like that have to, like, the primary work is the primary work is making sure the kids are okay. The second primary work is getting the games out.
Yeah.
So any web stuff is like later.
When I have 6 weeks and I'm not doing anything else.
So in 15 or 20 years.
Well, that's beautiful. We had a revelation that something will be coming up somewhere somehow.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who knows? So I
Now it's public, I can start putting stuff over there.
Yeah, but it could be. You could tell jokes. It could just be like, here's a goofy thing.
Oh my. People will shout.
Right.
So, there's a show, a Portuguese show, which is a conversation, an interview, and the host usually says an expression. It ends the conversation with, "What do your eyes tell?" And then the interviewer says something like, very poetic, whatever. So, I do the same thing, but in the role-playing aspect, which is, what do your dice, both Vincent and Meguey, tell? What do your dice tell?
Okay. Who got this? Who go first?
I go first.
Yeah. I get to look at this time.
Right.
The dice are thrown, are rolled.
Well, you've asked us to think deeply, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we are.
Oh, take your time. Don't worry.
I got to get back to work. I just got to get back to work.
That's
There's
weird.
so much work to do.
Yeah.
So much work to do. Got to get back to work. Games to finish. Games to get in people's hands.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the challenge to be patient with myself is what's before me right now. That the work that I have to do on many levels, it can't be rushed, and it'll be worse for me to rush it. So I just need to be patient and compassionate with myself.
That's beautiful to know. Really nice answers. So, Vincent, please finish the games.
So many games. So much work.
So many
I'm
games,
here.
so much work. But you have each
Different
other.
nowadays.
You have a family that design games, so
That's true.
you have a lot
They're
of tools.
very patient.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this will end the conversation. Thank you so much, Vincent and Meguey. It was a blast. Thank you everyone who was watching live. You know that you can watch over at YouTube. Probably later tonight. Still, I'll make some a thumbnail and boom, I'll upload it on YouTube, where you can watch it and rewatch it and do whatever you want with it. Thank you so much. You know that we are here almost every day. We are a team. We are a platform, a Portuguese content RPG creator platform. We do a lot of stuff from Monday to Sunday. But yes, Sunday is our prime time. Is our show where at 2019 we decided to reach designers and talk about design, so we can in Portugal design stuff, since we do not have yet an officially published game, but we'll have for sure.
Yeah.
That's how that's the Portuguese dice what it tells.
Yay! We look forward to seeing it.
Fantastic.
So thank you so much, everyone. See you next Sunday. My name is André Tavares, and goodbye, everyone. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Mwah.
And this was the conversation with both bakers at the Baker House. Vincent and Meguey Baker shared with us some wisdom about RPG design in this RPG Theory July. Thank you so much. See you next Sunday over at Roll for Diplomacy.